So again, we're going to look at perfect competition, but we're going to look at perfect competition in the short run. So in the last presentation I said that in the long run with perfect competition, they're only going to make normal profit. And in some ways this is good because it's going to be allocatively efficient, and they're also going to produce at the lowest point on the average cost curve, so productively efficient. But in some ways it's not so great because they don't make supernormal profit, and they also won't be able to reinvest that supernormal profit to make to gain from dynamic efficiencies, and they're going to be very small, so they're not going to gain from economies of scale. But in the short run, we might find a different story. So I'm going to start on the left hand side. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you two scenarios. This is the market on the left hand side, and on the right hand side I'm going to do the individual firm. So price, quantity, price, quantity. Okay, so first diagram, demand, supply, equilibrium, price and quantity. So as I said before, firms in perfectly competitive markets are price takers. So here we go. And this is our costs and output. That's the demand curve, which is also equal to average revenue, which is also equal to marginal revenue on this one. Because it's horizontal, perfectly elastic. Okay, so if the average cost curve is not tangential, okay, marginal costs will be there. Now, a perfectly competitive firm is still a profit maximizer. So profit maximizing output is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So they will produce there where the price is. Obviously, a price taker, they've got to take that price. And this is the output that they will produce out. This is where they're maximising their profit. And if we go across there, those are their costs. And there we go. They're making supernormal profit. So this can happen in the short run. But the problem is, because perfectly competitive market is one where there are very few barriers to entry, if any, firms, and there is also perfect information, so firms will not only know the price that firms are charging, it doesn't just work for consumers that'll instantly know prices that other firms are charging. Other firms will instantly know that these firms are making profits. So lots of firms will be attracted to the market, and we will see supply move outwards. And I may have done this correctly. Let's have a look. So we'll see downwards pressure on price, upwards pressure on the total quantity, equilibrium quantity in the market, and eventually what you'll get is a new demand curve for this firm. So this is demand 2, and it's moved down, and it will move to its long run equilibrium, and we can see actually with the quantity, I'll do it with a different colour, the quantity has moved inwards to the left, so that was quantity 1 and this is quantity 2, because these new producers in the market have actually taken some of that demand, but also because this firm, obviously being a profit maximizer, will not produce past that point. They want to produce where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, so they're going to reduce their output a little bit there because they don't want to be, at points past that, the marginal cost of producing items is much higher than the price that they're going to get, so that would be illogical for them to do that. Okay, so that's in the short run, a firm in a perfectly competitive market can actually make supernormal profits. Let's do another example here. So demand, supply, here we go, quantity 1, P1. Okay, so, oops, funny that curve. So here we go. demand, perfectly elastic. Again, here's our costs, here's our output. Write out your labels on your axes in full if you're in the exam. It's just a bit difficult for me on the iPad. So if costs are above here, marginal costs here. Okay, so profit maximising output, still when marginal costs equals marginal revenue. It's going to be there, that's going to be the price, they're a price taker. But, oh no, they are making a loss because our average costs are all the way up here. So this box here represents the subnormal profit, also known as a loss. Okay, so what happens in this diagram is, because we've got perfect information in the market, we find that firms leave the market, and it depends upon their cost structure. There's a little bit more of this in the AQA textbook, but also in the, is it called Anderton textbook as well, talking about kind of the shutdown point. So if the firms in the market have slightly different cost structures, so if the firm's covering their fixed costs, they might shut down more slowly, so maybe stay in the market for a bit longer. If the firm isn't even covering what I meant before was if the firm's covering their variable costs, at least they're contributing something towards their fixed cost. If the firm isn't covering their variable costs, they're actually making a loss for each additional unit of output that they're producing, so they would shut down immediately. So that would determine which of these firms go out of the market, but you don't really need that level of detail. It's just if you're a very curious student. So if supply moves backwards, our price, we've got upwards pressure on the price, and if we extend that dotted line forward, here we go, we get demand shifting upwards. So the long run equilibrium would be they'd produce more output, there's more incentive for them to produce more output, and that would be the long run equilibrium. So again, just like in the above diagram at the top, they can make supernormal profit, but it will only be in the short run. Again, they could make subnormal profit, or a loss commonly known as, but it'll only be in the short run, because in the bottom diagram we see firms are going to leave the market. In the top diagram we see this profit attracts firms to the market, and this can all happen because there are no barriers to entry in this market, unlike in monopolies where there are barriers to entry. So that means that monopolies can gain supernormal profits, and maybe other firms know that they're gaining supernormal profits, but they can't actually enter the market because of barriers to entry.